Welcome to Zaki Gadgets, make your life easier.
New Samsung Galaxy Note 10. Actually, the Note 10 Plus, the larger and slightly more feature-packed version of the device. And in this video, we're going to be unboxing this thing and taking a look at everything Samsung has to offer. So pulling off the lid, obviously front and center, there is the phone itself. And actually hidden inside the lid, at least when I unboxed mine here, is the collection of paperwork, the quick start guide, and all the other information you probably won't end up reading anyway, but there it is if you want it. And also on the outside of that little packet is your SIM ejector tool. Here is that shiny new Note 10 Plus, of course. Now, I obviously opted for the new Aura Glow color. It's sort of a shiny mirrored finish that casts a bit of a rainbow in the right light, and while I totally realize it's not for everyone, I definitely really like it. We'll get back to the phone in just a minute, but before we do that, let's finish taking out the rest of the stuff from the box here. Now, with the Note 10 Plus, you're going to get a 25-watt USB-C wall plug, which will charge up the phone pretty quickly on its own. Of course, you also get a USB-C cable to go with it, and Samsung still includes an OTG adapter, which is a nifty little tool for connecting standard USB-A devices. Last but not least, you get a familiar pair of AKG-tuned wired earbuds with your Note 10, and Samsung throws in some extra replacement rubber ear tips to help you find the right fit too, which is nice. But you'll notice that these AKG earbuds are now USB-C because Samsung finally dropped the headphone jack on the Note 10. So with all that stuff out of the way, let's get back to the star of the show, the phone itself. This is the new Note 10 Plus, and I have to say I really like the look and feel of this device. While Samsung didn't opt for any major changes from last year's Note 9, the more obvious sharp rectangular design, super minimal bezels, and ever so minor tweaks give the phone a refreshed look that I think is really awesome. Now, in regards to that color, I feel like in a lot of press and advertising videos and also some photos online, this new Aura Glow finish looked a lot brighter and more sort of rainbow-like, but actually it's this reflective, almost mirror finish with a light blue tint. And depending on how the light hits it, you'll get just a bit of that colorful shine. I found it to be a bit more subtle than what I was expecting, though in the right light, you're definitely going to see quite an effect. Of course, you don't have to go with Aura Glow at all. You can go with something simpler, and I'll take a second to actually go over all of the variations of the Note 10 devices here because Samsung has expanded their lineup to include a bunch of different options. So there's technically two Note 10 devices this year, like I mentioned already. The smaller Note 10 that comes in at 6.3 inches, and the larger Note 10 Plus that I have here, which is a 6.8 inch device. Now, as far as their configurations, you'll notice right away that the Note 10 has a few less options to choose from and some missing features. The Note 10 is only available in 256 gigabytes and does not have expandable storage. The Note 10 Plus comes in at 256 or 512 gig capacities and does have expandable storage up to 1 terabyte. You're also going to get less RAM, a smaller battery, a different camera setup, and one less color option. And the screens on these two phones are pretty different too. The smaller Note 10 has a 1080p display, while the Note 10 Plus has a 1440p display. Hardware-wise, this is a very familiar Samsung device, but we actually do see a couple interesting changes on the Note 10. First off, on the left side of the phone, you've got your volume switches and power button, but you'll notice no separate dedicated Bixby button anymore, and that's because the power button also now doubles as your Bixby button. A single press wakes the device, and by default, now a long press launches everyone's favorite personal assistant. And you're probably asking, okay, how do you power off or restart the phone now? Well, you have to do that via a shortcut in the notifications dropdown. Fortunately though, you can easily change that button function in settings, which is something I did right away, and I'm glad Samsung made it super easy to switch back. All your buttons are on the left side of the phone, so nothing there on the right side. Across the bottom, like I said earlier, you will no longer find a headphone jack, but there's a mic, the USB-C port, a speaker, and the S Pen, which actually offers a few new features and capabilities with the Note 10, and I'll go over all of that in just a second. Around back on the Note 10 Plus, you'll see a triple camera setup and a whole bunch of sensors and things, and I'll go more in depth with all that in just a moment. Up front, Samsung went with a center hole punch design for the front-facing camera, and hidden pretty well is the earpiece/speaker as well. Also embedded in the display of the Note 10 is a fingerprint reader. It's fast enough, and the only thing you have to get used to is just finding the right spot on the screen. It does require a bit of practice practice, and it needs a little bit of a force to work, a sort of subtle press, but all in all, Samsung implemented it well, and I think I'm glad to see it on this phone. Since this is a Note device, obviously we've got to talk about the S Pen. Samsung introduced some new features and capabilities, including AR Doodle, which lets you draw through the camera app, which is more just a fun little activity, I think. And you can also now control different apps and things using gesture controls with the S Pen, or air actions as Samsung calls them. So for example, swooshing the S Pen like a magic wand up or down might switch from the front or rear cameras if you're at a distance from the phone. Of course, you still have all the other usual S Pen features and functions, notes and drawings and markups, translations and magnifying, and a bunch of other tasks. The S Pen, of course, is still a great tool if you're a power user or a long-time Note user, and I do think that it adds an extra element to this phone that makes it special. Besides all the flashy colors and gimmicky features, it is still a flagship smartphone first and foremost, and with that, you can expect the latest high-end specs. Now, like I said already, with the smaller Note 10, you're stuck with a 1080p display, but with the Note 10 Plus, you've got a 3040 by 1440 screen that packs 498 pixels per inch. The Super AMOLED panel supports HDR10 Plus and obviously looks sharp and crisp and bright. The edges of the display sort of roll off the sides there just a bit to really minimize those side bezels. And obviously you're getting an insane screen to body ratio here. I still think Samsung brings one of the best smartphone viewing experiences to the Note 10 Plus. Inside, the Note 10 Plus packs the latest Qualcomm Snapdragon 855 or Exynos 9825, depending on where in the world you live, 12 gigs of RAM, like I mentioned already, and basically all the specs you'd expect that give it a lightning fast and buttery smooth experience with Samsung's One UI. Obviously, this phone is going to feel great and perform well, as it should. You should just expect a phone like this to give you pretty much the best overall performance. Finally, let's talk about all of those cameras. You've got your standard lens, telephoto lens, and an ultra wide angle lens too. And next to all that, there's also the depth vision camera and sensor, which is exclusive to the Note 10 Plus. And that's going to assist you with a feature that's both super cool and super creepy, is the zoom in mic. The way this works is that as you zoom in on a subject while filming a video, you'll actually pick up the audio from the person or object you're zooming in on. So right now, as I zoom closer and closer to my iPhone that's playing music, the camera is picking up on the audio more and more. This is definitely a potentially invasive feature, but also very innovative. And I give Samsung some credit here for introducing something no other phone currently has. So there you go. Those are all of my thoughts and first impressions on the new Samsung Galaxy Note 10 Plus.
Subscribe Zaki Gadgets for new innovations.